Antonio. As I promised, we have Anais Miracle from the Children's Shelter of San Antonio. Anais, how are you today?
Hi, good afternoon, Dr. Doug. What an honor to be with you.
Oh, thank you. I don't know if it's an honor, but thank you. That's cool. That's very cool. Wow, that's a first. That's a first. It's an honor.
It's great to be on KROV.
Awesome. So, hey, Anais, so you're here with the Children's Network, and we're here. We're doing practicing our social distancing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Notice we're not even on the same screen, so you can't go and say that we've done anything wrong. We're not crowded on each other or anything like that. Awesome. So, all right. So, tell me a little bit about the Children's Shelter of San Antonio.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Dr. Doug, for having the Children's Shelter here. You know, we've been in our community since 1901. So obviously you can imagine 119 years right here in the Alamo City. You can imagine we've served and provided care for countless children, young people, and families. So our organization, right now, we are at 2939 West Woodlawn. We sit on 10 beautiful acres in the heart of the West Side, and we actually have a number of array of services for children, young people, and families. Them being obviously the most, I think, our hallmark part of our organization is our emergency shelter.
Okay.
So we provide care for up to 66 children at any given time.
So 24 hours, correct?
24 hours a day, and we are not closed.
Right.
Our administrative offices are temporarily closed right now, but we are a 24/7, 365 operation all day, every day. Kind of think of it as like a healthcare system. We are providing critical care for kids who are victims of child abuse and neglect. And so right now we have about 44 children in our emergency shelter, anywhere from infants until the age of 16.
Now, and they're still on the same 10-acre campus?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
So that's what we call our cottage.
Okay.
And then we also have one of our newest program called the Waterburger Center for Children and Youth. And so that's a program in the medical center, and those are for children who maybe have disrupted their foster home. Maybe they've come from a hospital, like a psychiatric hospital, and they're a little bit harder to place because of their behaviors. And so we have about 28 children, and the average age for that child would probably be around 14, so they're teenagers.
Okay. Now, is that a freestanding building as well?
That also is. That's a different campus. Yeah, that's in the medical center.
Okay.
And so obviously we provide everything for our children. So we have a partnership with the Children's Hospital of San Antonio.
Right.
And so we have nurses on both campuses.
Oh my.
So right now what we're doing, obviously in this midst of the public health pandemic, what we are doing is we are taking the temperatures. Our nurses are taking the temperatures of all of our direct care staff that are working directly with our kiddos to make sure that they're safe,
right,
and asking all those questions of whether or not they have symptoms, but also keeping and minimizing risk and also maximizing safety. That's something that we continue to talk about. As you know, Dr. Doug, our mission has been to restore innocence and strengthen families.
And that's a tough thing to do.
Absolutely.
Based on the circumstances that some of our youth have to go through.
Absolutely, and they come from. It's just not one isolated incident. I mean, these things happen chronically. These things are happening over the course of months or even years, and a lot of it's related to neglect. When we look at the new data from Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, 79% of children of why they were removed by Child Protective Services back in 2018 is because of neglectful supervision. And a lot of it's related to substance use among parents. And so
when you find that substance abuse among parents, is that just younger parents, or is it over across all age groups of parents, the whole spectrum?
It's all of the spectrum, but a lot of the age is not young parents. I mean, we're talking about 25 to 35 years old. So you're not talking about a very young population.
Yeah, okay. Very good.
No. And so you're just kind of seeing a cross-section of the ages. But one of the things that what we also want to share is that, right now, even though people can't set foot on our campus externally, we do say that, we'll talk about this a little later, but how people can really get involved, even though they're at home right now, right? With the stay home and safe work orders, But one of the things that what we also want to be able to share is that we also have foster care. We have a program called Therapeutic Foster Care. So it licenses and trains foster parents to go through the entire process to provide temporary care for children in their home. And that's a critical need, right?
Absolutely.
And so even though We we want a variety of foster parents because our children look like all of San
All of San
Antonio.
Antonio, absolutely.
And it could be a single person, it could be a two-parent household, it could be an older couple, it could be a younger couple. And we do foster care. We also do foster to adoption.
So do you do same-sex couples?
We also do that as well.
Okay.
And so we license the families, and so they go through a very rigorous process.
Okay.
And so it's about 82 hours to become fully licensed.
Oh my gosh.
And 24 is really related
82
to
hours.
82 hours.
Nowadays, 82 hours is like 2 weeks. That can make a big difference.
Yes. And so obviously they do that within the course of months, but
Right.
a large bulk of it's really going to be learning about how to understand trauma.
Yes.
Because with children, there's no such thing as bad children. Their behaviors are sometimes
Their
very difficult.
actions are
Correct.
socially unacceptable.
Absolutely.
But to the core, they're not bad children. I
That's
fully agree with you.
It's their environment that they're coming
Absolutely.
from.
Absolutely.
And
It's
so,
learned.
Yeah,
It's a
it is
behavior.
learned. And
Yes,
so you
right.
have to kind of peel back all those little layers of the onion to start saying, okay, well, what's happened and
Right.
what's going on, and
So
and
that you can reach them to where they are.
Absolutely, and sometimes even developmentally. You may have a 7-year-old who may be developmentally 5 or 4.
Wow.
It just really depends upon every single child. But a lot of times in San Antonio, what we see is very large sibling groups.
Wow.
And so you're not seeing the one child who comes into foster care. You're seeing more than 2 children at a time, even up to 8 children.
There are people in San Antonio that have a lot of kids, and that is something that's interesting to me personally because I believe in the whole deal about growing society, and it'd be nice to have a large family, but then you get into when you look at your standards, your moral, your requirements, your belief system, and everything is how to raise children, and there's a cost to that. And so when you have multiple children, you multiply that cost times that, and it could be daunting. So
Sure.
you see some of the things that's causing some of the problems that we're having today. So now you guys have been around since 1909.
1901.
1901.
Yes, sir.
So, and I keep getting that. I'm all around that, but
You're
okay.
fine,
1901. So now, how did you guys start? Back in 1901, society was so very different. They didn't even have child labor laws back then. So a lot of children were forced to work. I mean, if you go back and you think about it, they had 6 and 7-year-olds in textile. In fact, they're making clothes and working on farms and doing all kinds of things in all kinds of hours. So how did that get started back then?
So the children's shelter was really started on kind of informal foster care from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of talked about a family who came from all over. They were here in San Antonio. And they were taken care of by Mrs. Tapia, who was Mrs. Tapia.
Mrs. Tapia.
And so we actually, our family strengthening office downtown is named after
I
Mrs.
thought
Tapia.
so.
And so she was a volunteer. And it's really interesting because we have articles that date back to 1945.
Oh my gosh!
That share that the Alamo Kiwanis had donated money and a fire hydrant to Mrs. Tapia for their emergency shelter, right?
Oh my goodness!
And it's really just kind of fascinating to kind of see the history that plays out and how we've really evolved to address the needs of children.
Now, was she always a volunteer, or did she become an employee?
Now, to be quite honest with you, I'm not quite sure, but at the very beginning she was volunteer. So she would take care of children, and then she also had her own family as well.
My goodness.
And so I think San Antonio, I've said this multiple times, and I've shared this often, is that San Antonio, I believe, is a gem.
Mm-hmm.
I think San Antonio is a gem because San Antonio has always risen to the occasion of when there have been issues or if there's been problems. San Antonio,
Katrina, for example.
Yeah, and there are people who come to the aid of many, right?
Right.
And so you see people come over and say, well, I may not have much, but this is what I have. Or I may have time, I may not have money. I may have money, but I may not have time. Right. I can donate food, or I can donate clothes, or diapers, or formula. I mean, but there's something for everyone.
You know what's interesting, and I agree with you 1,000%. That's why I love San Antonio. I mean, I moved here from Chicago, and that's one of the reasons that keeps me here is because of the compassion and empathy that our citizens have for each other. But one of the things I think, just from looking at it from a holistic standpoint and just kind of going back and looking at why things happen, I think it's because of how we were founded. The whoever was in charge of the archdiocese in Mexico sent a bunch of nuns here and like find a spot in the desert and put a stick down and call it San Antonio kind of a thing. And, whereas most other places were formulated differently. They were formulated around some economic, because they were close to water or because of the land produced agricultural types of things or what have you, or there was gold in the case of California. But in San Antonio, it was out of compassion. It was because the nuns, the sisters who moved here actually cared about the Indians and were trying to help the Indians live better themselves. And
well, that's really interesting you say that, Dr. Doug, because I graduated from the University of Incarnate Word. So, the Sisters of Charity were found in. They also found, Children's Hospital.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right.
Christus Santa
and people don't understand what a wonderful place that is, and they don't care who you are, where you come from. If you're a child in need, they're going to take care of you. They're not going to say, well, how are you going to pay for this? Oh, well, you got to go because you don't have a check. Or they just take everybody in, and that's compassion.
And that's something that I think it kind of goes back to our earlier discussion, is that there's obviously we have an array of services. We have 3 programs that are very distinct, and they really work with families with children. Because that's what we see right now. Is we had an earlier discussion about families who are at home. They are isolating. They're in quarantine. They're being by themselves, and children are being asked to be homeschooled. Right. And so families are now grappling with the stress of, okay, am I going to have a job, or did I lose my job? Are we going to have 1 paycheck, or are we going to have 2? How are we going to get food for our children? And it's not just one child, it could be multiple children.
Absolutely.
Right. And so that's where school districts play a crucial part in this as well. But we have 3 programs. One is a compadre and compadre program, which works with fathers. A lot of programs are really geared towards moms and their babies.
Absolutely.
But how do you engage the father figure in all of this equation? So we have a fatherhood program that lasts for 15 weeks. And we work with that father who, majority of them do have an open CPS case, but they're looking to reunify with their children, have visitation, and some of them are maybe going through a difficult situation with a divorce or other situation. They want to become better fathers.
Do you do that on campus, or do you do that
So
on
we
site?
do it at 1209 South St. Mary's, and that's our compadre program. All of our programs are free. And so it's 15 weeks. We also have them in Spanish and English. And then we also have them in a variety of days and times. But in addition to that, after that, they become volunteers. They can become mentors for our So it's kind of like a peer support person. So I've been in your shoes. I know exactly what you're going through, and I can help you walk through this entire process. In addition to that, we have a nurse family partnership program, and it pairs a registered nurse with a first-time mom who's no more than 28 weeks pregnant. So if you have a mom who's listening to say, I really don't know what to do, I want to see if I can qualify, they can go to our website, childrenshelter.org, and they can find out more information, or they can give us a call. Even though our administrative offices are not open, that doesn't mean we don't have a front desk person filtering calls, and our website is still live. You can ask questions. We're always active on Facebook, so you can always message us directly. In addition to that, we have an iParent essay program that works with any kind of caregiver who has a child in their home, and that child could be anywhere from an infant all the way until the age of 17, and that parent could be a single parent. That parent could be a relative. We know that there are quite a bit of relative caregivers who are taking care of their nieces, nephews, even grandchildren.
Right.
And so sometimes they need support. Sometimes they feel like maybe they're going through this whole process alone. And I think right now what has happened is we are in this global pandemic, and some parents may feel like, I am alone. What do I do?
Well, we always think of the worst instead of the best.
Right. You're absolutely correct. And I think it kind of I know this may sound a little bit on the quirky side, but I just want to say, look at what Fred Rogers would say, look for the helpers.
Look for the helpers, that's right.
Look for the helpers.
That's
and
right.
If you look at the children's shelter, you can look for the helpers.
Very well played.
Well,
Very
it's
nice.
just I kind of look back at our emergency shelter staff. I can talk to, like Mama Shirley. She's been with us for 28 years. You can go back to looking at everybody who provides care 24/7 for our children, morning, noon, and night.
Wow.
We are awake staff. And so they're the ones who wake up the kiddos in the morning, get them ready for breakfast, brush their hair, do everything for them. And they're their temporary parents until they can go
until they find a place.
That's right. And so about 42% of them will go to a relative.
Okay.
You know,
well, that's a little more comfortable.
Exactly. Maybe it's an auntie or an uncle, or maybe it's a grandparent, or maybe it's a next of kin. It could be a teacher.
Okay.
And then a smaller percentage will go to, obviously they'll go to, maybe reunified with their biological parents.
Right.
Or go to a foster parent.
Okay.
Temporarily. And the average length stay for a child in foster care is a little under, it's probably about a year or so.
Really?
Yeah. So it used to be a little bit more. But
why has it decreased?
Well, we want to be able to find the best placement for children, and also there's a lot of concerted efforts to work with parents to get back to reunification with their.
Very nice. That's what I was hoping you would say.
Yeah. So obviously, the intent is to reunify them with their biological parents. If they can't go back to their biological parents, then a relative, because we know that family they do better with family.
Absolutely.
And so we know that foster parents are more strangers. They're more like people they don't know.
Right.
And so a lot of the gaps where we see in our work of foster care is that we need foster homes for teenagers.
Right.
A lot of people are like, "Oh, they're scary." I'm like, they're just a little older kids. That's all they are.
Well, but they're still kids. They're still kids.
Yeah, and even adults. Well, we're still kids, but we're just a little older. And
That's true, actually.
And the other thing is that you also have. We need foster parents, obviously, for children who may have special needs. Maybe a child who's autistic, or maybe a child who has learning abilities that need some more special guidance, right?
Right.
Even sibling groups, and that's really hard to ask for. Especially in San Antonio, we need we have sibling groups 3 to 8 children, and it's very difficult to find a family who can say, let me go ahead and open my home and I can take 8 kids. I mean, legally, only like about federally, you can only have 6 children in a home, including biological children. But that's why it's so crucial to work together to be able to keep children as close together as possible.
So in the case of 8, hypothetically speaking,
sure.
So you go 6 go one place and 2 go someplace else?
Could be 4 and 4, 5 and 3. It just depends upon how a family can be able to have the capacity to provide care for them in their home.
Okay.
A lot of families don't have really large homes.
Right, nowadays, exactly.
Yeah, and again, I think one of the things that we've always been asked for, I think multiple times, is do you have to own a home? And the question is, no, you can have an apartment, you can have a condo, you can live in a mobile home, as long as you have stable housing. You're good,
Well, you have to have adequate space for them.
Absolutely, and they have to have their own bed, and
those kinds of things. Those things.
But one of the other crucial parts that we created about 4.5 years ago was mental health care. That's really hard for people to talk about. It's called the Harvey E. Meacham Hope Center, and what we do is
good old Harvey.
Yeah, we provide. He's been very, very generous to the children's shelter.
He's a great person. Yes, he is.
Absolutely. And we have multiple donors who always make a commitment to the children's shelter and believe in our mission. Through the Hope Center, we're able to do therapy on site, not only for the kids in our cottage, but also children who have been impacted by Child Protective Services, or relative caregivers who are taking care of children. So you have to at least be 3 years of age to 17.
Okay.
And you have to have some history of maltreatment. And so, because this is where the services are, right? And so, but also maybe even loss. We've had some children who have lost their parents, and that's a whole grieving process, right?
So, Anice, you guys do a lot. It's amazing, and your facility is fantastic. It's beautiful. But how many staff do you have?
So fully, we have about 310 full-time staff.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So we're considered a large organization.
Right, you guys are like a Fortune 500 nonprofit.
So we are 1209 South St. Mary's is our family strengthening program. Then we have our Whataburger Center. That's at in the medical center.
Right.
Then we have our main campus is 2939 West Woodlawn. Right. And then we also have a Found in Southtown thrift boutique. Currently, it's closed temporarily, but we provide. We're in the neighborhood right down the street from Brackenridge High School.
Absolutely.
So we're out there, so anybody can buy refurbished stuff, or they can buy.
I know where that is now. I've seen that.
Found in Southtown. So that's our has a little lamb logo outside. And then we also are able to provide families an opportunity to connect with us, right?
Okay.
Right now, we're kind of moving into the virtual space.
Right.
Starting in April, I believe it's April 6th, we're going to launch them. But we're going to do a hashtag #LambFamCares, and it's really going to be about parenting, virtual parenting for those who are on Facebook, right?
Okay, right.
And so it could speak to fathers, it could speak to relatives, it could speak to anybody who's caregiving for children.
Okay, so now the father program, what is that called again?
Compadre.
Like the Compadre program, is that virtual as well, or is that
It's face to face, but right now we're having to move virtually, right? Because of what's going on.
With all of your programs.
With all of our programs. With the exception, obviously, of our Waterburger Center and emergency shelter, because we provide direct care for children. But one of the other, I think earlier we briefly spoke about what can people do from their home. Sometimes some people may say, well, I don't know what can I do? I can't go and volunteer. I can't go and connect with the kids. That's okay. This is just temporary. Obviously, this is not something that we're going to see for a long time. But this is something temporary. And if you'd like, we do have an Amazon wish list. So we do Wish List Wednesday. So if you check out our Facebook page, we have a Wish List Wednesday, and you can look at what some of our most needed items. Right now, we did some mini summer camps, quote unquote, for the extension of the spring break.
Very nice.
We talked about the Chromebooks because our kids.
Well, tell me about the Chromebooks. The audience didn't hear that one.
So we had to purchase 10 Chromebooks. So we were asking for donations for that because we want to be able to make sure that our kids can be online for school.
Absolutely.
We have a satellite school with SAISD, and so we are needing to go to a virtual space, right, for our kids so that there's no gap in their academic learning. So they're required to go to school. One of the things we also have, we have a partnership with UT Health Dental School. So they are on our campus to provide dental services for our kiddos as well. And I think I failed to mention in our Hope Center, not only do we do therapy, but we also have a social work component to it. So we have licensed social workers who go meet the families in the home. And they also, now they've moved to a virtual space so they can connect with their families online because that's something that they've been able to keep their appointments, speak to their social worker. So it's not only about understanding what's going on with the child and the family, but also providing that level of social support and emotional support for the family to understand.
You guys have really evolved. You become a full service provider, and that is really awesome, and you're to be much commended for that. Now, in the time that we have left, tell us a little bit more about what you're going to be unveiling with your virtual services.
Sure. So we're going to be working on working with our Compadre program, our iParent program, and our nursing partnership program for the month of April, all the way through May 1st, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. We're going to schedule these out live on Facebook to be able to do these live interviews with our program directors to talk about a specific topic related to fathers, parents, moms, children. And so being able to connect with those parents who are working remotely and who are at home taking care of their children during this time.
And so that's going to be on your Facebook page?
Yes, it will.
Okay, so awesome. So make sure that I get those times out because I want to make sure I let the audience. Well, let me ask you this because I should not assume. Is that open for anyone?
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people, even though they may not be foster parents, they have their own children at home. And like I remember when Jeremy was younger, heck, if we saw him like during the day, it'd be like as we pick him up in the morning, we take him to school, he's gone all day, and like, oh, there he is, it's Saturday, he's home all day. So it makes a big difference, even regardless of how many children you have, finding things to keep them actively engaged, so that they're not just.
And that's really good that you bring that up. Yes, because what we're also going to do on Tuesdays and Thursdays throughout the month of April is we're going to do a hashtag Art with Ernesto and hashtag Reading with Ernesto. So we'll pick a book, and we'll be able to teach parents like what kind of things they can do at home with their kids.
Very nice.
So something to be active with them.
So great. Those will be posted on your website,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So we look forward to that. And so, do you announce the topics beforehand?
We will announce the topics beforehand. We're just kind of thinking of them right now. But again, any kind of parenting, even if anybody wants to reach out to us via Facebook Messenger, they can do that. They have specific topics they want us to talk about, whether it's for fathers or new moms or parents with young children or parents with adolescents. Or maybe they want to see a specific activity for their kids or specific books. we'd love to be able to hear your ideas from your listeners on
Awesome.
here. So if they want to, they can Facebook message the Children's Shelter and get more information.
That's good. So keep that in mind. If you guys have ideas or things that you need, maybe you don't have an idea, but you have a specific need, you want to make sure that you get in touch with the Children's Shelter of San Antonio on their Facebook page and give them a messenger about what your need might be. So this has been fantastic. I've been overwhelmed by just the work that you guys do.
Thanks, Doctor.
How many residents, full-time, part-time, do you have?
So when it comes to our staff, we are fully 24/7. So obviously it's like shifts, like hospitals.
Absolutely.
And then we also have administrative offices. We have partnerships like the Children's Hospital of San Antonio, UT Health,
and then volunteer residents.
And then we do have some volunteers who come in, but right now it's very limited just due to what's going on. Excuse me. But one of the things that we also do. It was really interesting because I got a text from one of our volunteers, and his name is Courtney Johnson, and he's in the Army, but he was here stationed at Fort Sam Houston, and he used to do birthday parties for our kiddos at our cottage. And Courtney had said, he texted me earlier in the week and said, "Hey, my friend, I wanted to make sure that even though what's going on, I just want to make sure that, the kids' birthday parties are still going on." And so what he used to do is that he used to order a birthday present on Amazon, and he used to order the cake from our local HEB.
Oh, wow.
And even though he was in Wisconsin, he would get his friends to come over and donate it.
Oh.
And it's like, Courtney, you're awesome.
That is so nice.
But he still asked to make sure that the birthday parties still continue for our kids. But he's in Wisconsin.
That's
you know
fantastic.
What I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's just.
Technology today, you're always present.
Sure.
We're just a second away.
Yeah.
And then how many children do you serve?
So at any given time, we can, as shared, we can have up to 66 in our emergency shelter, but we have about 44, 20 in our Whataburger Center, and we also have children in our foster homes. And about an average year, last year, were about 5,100 children, youth, and families were served. So we serve a pretty, large population.
Now, do you have group homes on campus, or do you not?
No, we do not. So we have licensed foster families in our community of where they are. Okay. Yeah, they're all over. I mean,
it's just a different, like Roy Moss has the group homes.
Yes, they do. They do.
But yeah, both are going to be.
They're incredible organizations in San Antonio.
As you guys said, I didn't mean to steal their thunder.
Oh, no. I mean, I do have to say, Roy Moss is an incredible organization. They do incredible work, especially with teenagers and those who are victims.
Especially the older victims. Yes,
who are victims of
runaways,
domestic minor sex trafficking.
Yeah, they did. That is huge. People don't talk about it, but it's amazing how prevalent that is in San Antonio.
Yes, Bill Wilkinson is an amazing CEO, and along with Dr. Julie Strench, they're amazing people. And, you have about 32 foster agencies in San Antonio.
Yes.
And
it's still not enough.
It's still not enough. And I think what I would like to share with your listeners is that anyone can do something.
Right.
It's not a matter of, do you just give money? It's a matter of, maybe it's just a little prayer.
No, it's a prayer, but it's time.
Maybe it's time.
Ideas.
That's right.
That
maybe whatever it could
messenger to you.
Absolutely.
Social media messages to you about ideas, perhaps.
Sure, of course.
So now, and then, do you guys have an annual event?
So we do have our annual luncheon, but we're seeing about postponing that right now just because of what's going on with this right now, right? But we do have a variety of events. If you go to childrenshelter.org, we do have a list of events that go on throughout the year. But one of the things is that right now we have been utilizing the Big Give platform, which I'm sure you've heard of, to more the Big Relief.
Right.
And so in a matter of days, we've been able to raise, I think, more than $30,000 just because we have to fill some gaps right now currently. But I do have to say, going back to the generosity of San Antonians, it's the matter of they're truly wanting to know how to help, and a gift of $5 means a lot, or whatever you can give. Or if you go through Amazon and want to, get diapers or wipes, and they deliver it to our doorsteps. That's amazing too.
So remember, if you want something, don't go to Walmart by yourself. Go to Amazon and have it. You can have it designated where it can go, and that's very important. So I've done I've interviewed over 200 nonprofits since I've been doing this show, and it just never ceases to amaze me just the altruistic nature of each and every one of them, and how they work really hard to do the things that they do, and I mean, you guys are results driven. In many places, for I mean, it's just in general, nonprofits in a lot of places have a bad connotation with them because people think that, oh, my money's going there, they're getting government money, and it doesn't go to anything, and nothing's really happening. But I mean, you guys are all just very, very worthy people, especially you and the things that you've done. And what's really interesting about your organization to me is how you've transitioned from 1901 to now. Because some organizations, and I won't, without naming them, that might be 50 plus years old or along on that same end of the spectrum as you guys are, they're still doing things the way that they were doing them when they were founded, you know. And it seems like you guys have evolved with the times and changed with the times and remade yourself with the times so that you're always relevant to the population, and how you've adjusted things and how you guys embrace change instead of rejecting change.
I think Dr. Doug, I mean, you make a very good point in the fact that change is really hard for everyone, right?
Yes, it is.
And families change.
Yes, they do.
Populations change. Our population in the early 1900s is drastically different to 2019.
Absolutely.
Technology, the evolution of technology, the remarkability of technology.
Absolutely.
I think also it underlines the level of complexity our families face,
right?
And how our families look different, how our families represent San Antonio, but we should always be forward thinking in terms of how do we make things better for our families? How do we make things better for kids?
Right.
How do we move away from being punitive to understanding that the root cause of children's behavior? I mean, there's a really big growth, right?
Very well said, because everything used to be punitive.
Right. And so I know that there are lots of schools moving towards understanding that if a child is misbehaving, is it because they're truly misbehaving, or is it because something happened?
It's a reaction. Absolutely. It's a reaction.
Did their parents go through a divorce?
Right.
Do they not have enough food?
Absolutely.
Did something happen the night before?
Absolutely.
Are they worried about their siblings? Just understanding and recognizing that their behaviors may be stemming from something that we truly is kind of invisible, you can't see.
And it's really a shame. Child abuse is so prevalent in our society. And it's one of those things that no one wants to talk about, but it's something that happens. And if we're going to be a great society and we're going to live up to the values that we expound, we have to really get our arms around it. We have to talk about it. And we have to have more organizations like you guys doing the things that you guys are doing. Sure. And I really commend you guys. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Doug. I think one of the things also to understand is with child maltreatment, it's not just one thing that happens in the home. It could be maybe unemployment, underemployment. It could be poverty. It could be substance use, alcohol use.
Bullying.
It could be bullying. It could be just maybe there's just multiple children with multiple needs.
Right,
I mean,
absolutely.
Stressors, these external things happening with the family. And sometimes the families just feel as though they're hopeless. They just don't know where help can be. Where is there help?
Right.
Or sometimes they just truly feel as though they're unable to do anything and they feel by themselves.
Well, that's another great point you bring up, is that the culturally, some cultures frown on families that look for help or ask for help or seek help, because the implication is that you're not taking care of your responsibilities if you have to ask for help. And that's not true. There's no shame in asking for help.
No, there's no shame in asking for help. I mean, I think one of the biggest cultural barriers is also talking about mental health care. That's
Absolutely.
Huge, right?
Yes, it is.
Because
for the parents as well as for the children.
Absolutely, because what will happen is that if we look at a child who has experienced maltreatment and you look at their parents, more than likely they've been victims of child abuse.
Absolutely.
But they never got the help.
Absolutely.
And again, I think it goes back to your sage advice of don't ever feel as though you can't ask for help. because there is help, and maybe there's free help.
That's right.
And it's just maybe a matter of a phone call, or
That's
maybe visiting a website.
That's right.
And maybe it could help you or understand what's going on, because sometimes parents are like, well, they were just misbehaving. Well, maybe something else is going. Maybe there's something else is going on at school, or maybe something else is going on that we may not fully understand and recognize.
And I want to say to those that are listening, the other thing is not just within the core family itself, but also if you are a neighbor, a friend, a relative of a person or a family, and you see things going on that don't seem right, or that you think that doesn't meet a socially acceptable standard, you yourself can call in and you can actually seek help or seek advice on what actions you should take, if you should take any action whatsoever. But don't witness something and not say something. If you see something, say something when it comes to children, because that opportunity, that missed opportunity, might lead to even more detrimental care. So.
Thank you, Dr. Doug. And we may save life.
They may save a life. I didn't want to go that deep, but you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yes, you may save a life. And I think with anyone, it's I mean, even going the fact that these are our children.
Absolutely, they are our children.
You know, and
right.
in our emergency shelter, they're kids right from San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
They're not from another community. Mm-hmm. They're right from here. And so they're our kids.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
you know, as you mentioned, you know, it takes a village to raise a child, and that's certainly the case, you know. And so, yeah, exactly. And so I think for anyone can do something. And I think for going to what you had mentioned of altruism, we saw Cheesy Jane's come over earlier in the week and bring tater tots and cheeseburgers.
Oh my God! I bet that set them off.
Yeah, and it's good. You know, obviously,
it's good.
You know,
but
and for our staff
talk
too.
About getting people,
you know, yes.
It's kind of like a shot of caffeine.
Yeah, you know, and which one is? I know that they were looking at. We're looking to bring like bouncy houses to them, because now there's a lot of, and obviously our kids. Some of our kids, well, a lot of our kids, when they're come to our emergency shelter because they've been removed by CPS, have never had schedules, so they just kind of do
whatever they want to when they want to.
And so we have schedule like, this is breakfast, this is lunch, this is dinner, this is 3 snacks a day, this is when you're going to take a shower, this is when you're going to do this is when you're going to go to school.
Very nice.
This
very
is
nice.
You know, and so I would invite, you know, once all of this global pandemic has subsided, once we get back to what we were before,
mm-hmm.
you know, I'd invite you, Dr. Doug, and your son to come over and visit our 10-acre campus.
Oh, absolutely.
You
we
know,
will
come over and see our beautiful campus. You know?
But I will say one thing, and I don't believe we'll ever be the way that we were, because this is one of those cultural changing things. Absolutely. And that change is not a bad thing. It's just something that we have to do. Also, you know, now about the keep in mind, you guys go to their website. They have a wish list. We want you to go there, check out the wish list. We got those checks coming in 3 weeks, so you know it's kind of one of those things like the old time preachers, like you know, like the Father David would say, you got to pay your 10%. Well, the 10% don't always have to go to the church. Maybe your 10% can go to the children's shelter of San Antonio.
Oh, that's very nice.
So that they're really, really worthy of it. They're good students of your resources and of your gifts, and so please go and help them out. Also, if you are a family that is struggling with how to care for your child, how to keep them busy, how to keep them educated, and everything else during these trying times, check out the up and coming Facebook Live tutorials that will start in April. Mm-hmm. I'll make sure that I post those on the page so that everyone will be reminded of them. And then once again, go to their Facebook page, look at what's going on. They'll have the topics there and everything else. Make sure that you keep them in mind. If you have an extra $1, every $5 counts. She said that 4 times. I counted them. So $5, if nothing else, $5 is a sweet spot. So, but yes, they're really, really worthy of it. And so please keep them in your hearts and minds. And Denise, thank you for everything that you do.
Doug.
You guys are wonderful. My heart goes out to you. Keep up the hard work and everything. Anything that you guys have going on, if you do another grand opening or a reopening or so whatever, you want to come and announce that, feel free.
Thank you.
I'll always make room for you on the show, and we'll make sure that all the things that you do, that we will keep up with you, and that
Thanks, Dr. Doug.
and we'll be a resource for you.
Thank you. We appreciate it, and thank you to your listeners. It's we haven't been on here for about a year.
Right.
We're so happy to be back. So thank you to your listeners, and if any of your listeners have either given, donated, or even visited our campus, thank you. That means a lot.
Oh.
So thank you.
And it is Miracle from the Children's Shelter of San Antonio. They are really, really working hard for those vulnerable children in our community. As she said, there are kids, so please help support our kids. Dr. Doug here with KORB FM, the heart and soul of San Antonio. We will be back shortly.